Hello, everyone. This is the 228th episode of Soccer Nostalgia Talk Podcast. As always, this is Sean from Los Angeles and the Soccer Nostalgia blog. For this episode, I interview Spanish football fan Mr. Jordi Perez as we discuss Diego Maradona's 2 years at the FC Barcelona from 1982 to 1984. Welcome, Jordi.
Yeah, very pleased to be with you here.
Thank you. So, can you introduce yourself and your trajectory into football?
I would say I'm just a football fan who started falling in love with the game in the early 80s. And of course, I was very influenced by the Spanish World Cup in 1982, who I was able to go and watch a couple of matches of Spain. I was born in Madrid, though I am a loyal Barcelona supporter and son of another Madrid-born Barcelona fan who has been an athlete for the club for 50 years.
Let's go back in time. Can you describe the status of Barcelona in the Spanish football and cultural landscape as we come to the decade of the 1980s?
Barcelona, since 20 years before the arrival of Maradona, had only won one league title with the advent of Johan Cruyff in the 74 season. It was a team that had a lot of financial problems due to the construction of the Camp Nou, who had overcosts that hopefully will not come back with this new Camp Nou that is going to be probably open in the coming weeks. It had a very important cultural symbolism for Catalonia because during the Franco dictatorship, the club Barça symbolized that everything that the Catalans were not allowed to do in their daily lives. They could speak Catalan in the stadium. They could gather in groups. That was something that was very forbidden at that age. So there's a renowned Spanish and Catalan writer called Manuel Vázquez Montalbán who referred to Barça as the disarmed army of Catalonia. Barça was a political and cultural symbol of Catalonia, and it was all, let's talk it this way, encapsulated in the club's motto, which is Més que un club, more than a club.
Can you describe the Barcelona president, Jose Luis Núñez, and his impact since becoming president in 1978?
Jose Luis Núñez was the first elected president in democracy for the club. After the death of Franco and the arrival of a young but imperfect democracy in Spain, some, let's say, old regime nostalgics who were supporting Barcelona, they say that this more than a club philosophy was no longer needed. Okay, and probably Núñez was one of them. He was a guy who was a newcomer to the Barça and Catalan community. In fact, years after it was confirmed that he and his family had some affiliation with Espanyol, the city rivals. He was not part of this Catalan high-class people that governed the club since the departure of Joan Gamper, the founder of the club, in the mid-20s. So for many of these presidents were connected to the very influential textile industry in Catalonia. And there was a said that they were just passing the bottle one to each other. So all of them were almost the same. And this Núñez, he was a different guy. He was born in the Basque country. He was son of a customs agent who was destined to Catalonia, to the northern part, to the border with France. Okay, he married the daughter of a very, very prosperous builder in Barcelona. At the end, he became the owner of the father-in-law firm. In fact, he put his surname Núñez before the surname of his father-in-law Navarro in the name of the firm that he was ruling.
A running narrative in the early 1980s, as you mentioned earlier, was the constant headline that Barcelona had not won the league title since 1974 with Johan Cruyff. This had led to many expensive signings with no results. I mean, we can mention their names: Hans Krankel, Niskens, Sotil, Roberto Dinamite, among others, and Alan Simonson. There had been the Kini kidnapping that derailed the 1981 title, and Barcelona imploded in the run-up for the 1982 title. Was there a feeling that Barcelona were getting nearer to a title, or just the opposite?
It's a mixture of both of them because of the economic power that Barcelona was acquiring with this Núñez ruling the club, that he focused a lot in the economics and in financial situation of the club. It seemed that Barcelona was getting a better and better team. But at the same time, that, as you mentioned, everything at the end of the day was somehow making it impossible for the Barca to win the league. We were probably a great and very important competitive team, but at the end of the day, we were not losing the league. So it was only Cruyff, foremost, let's say, miraculous arrival who brought the league. And by that time, probably the arrival of Maradona was something of a kind.
It must be said that until the return of Cruyff, the manager, Barcelona had a reputation of spending too much money with not much to show for it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, those days also the Spanish football was very different from what it is right now. Okay, the Basque teams who let's say they are quite similar to the British teams. They had a very British style. They were very strong with this kick and rush way of playing. They were just dominating the league for those years. And Barcelona was just spending money and making, of course, every summer new signings, as you commented, Krankel, Demenagit, Simonsen, who was the Ballon d'Or the year before. But they were not arriving to get the title they wanted. That's it.
Despite winning the 1982 Cup Winners' Cup, Barcelona were criticized for the physical manner in their matches against Tottenham and in the final against Standard Liège. This was also a reflection of Spanish football by many observers at the time. How did the Barcelona faithful regard this style?
You may think, because you are thinking about let's say, the last 20 years Barcelona supporters that are they comprehend much wider the game that they used to comprehend at the time. As you mentioned, that the Basques were dominating. Also, Real Madrid had very physical players such as Camacho, Pirri, the German Uli Stilicke, and Santillana, the centre forward. I mean, that was the style for Spain. In fact, the essence of the Spanish football was this La Furia, these forceful guys just trying to kick everyone, and Barcelona was of that part. But the Barcelona fans were just focused on winning a league title. They've tasted years before the very important and historic Cup Winners' Cup in 1979 in Basel, and we've won a couple of Spanish Cups during the previous years. But what they wanted to win is again the league title. Imagine a guy that was a Barcelona fan who was 25 years old by then had also seen his team winning once La Liga. So there was a sort of urgency that Menotti afterwards called it the historic urgency of Barcelona of winning this league title.
Yes, it must be noted that Barcelona had won the title in 1960 and then in 1974, and that was it at that time. Yeah.
That was it.
Now, it's in this context that Maradona signed for Barcelona as the best player in the world since Pele, the most hyped player with all the publicity, etc. Was he seen as the savior who would lead to winning many more titles? What was his reception upon signing?
I mean, he was regarded as the new Cruyff because he was young, he was talented, he was rebellious, was widely expected to change the future for Barcelona. In fact, during his arrival at the airport, he signed for Barcelona while he was staying with the Argentinian national team in Alicante, in the southern part of Spain, for some 500 kilometers away from Barcelona. He was just making the preparation for the 1982 World Cup in Spain, and he just flew to Barcelona to sign the contract. He was welcomed by a crowd in the airport that he could not believe. He could not believe. It was Joan Gaspar, the vice president, took him to a car and with some problems could just go to the club offices to sign the contract. So the illusion that was surrounding Maradona was crazy.
Can you describe the backbone of the team that Maradona joined for the 1982-83 season, along with the manager being the West German Udo Lattek?
The team Maradona joined in Barcelona had been dominating the leagues up to the last 6 matches. He was the league leader by 5 points when the victory was 2 points and the draw 1 point. And he could not win even one match of the last 6 of them. He lost 4 and drew 2. So the team was seen as a dominant team, okay? And even though Núñez was trying to invest more and more and more, and he signed that same summer four Spanish internationals. It was Julio Alberto from Atlético de Madrid, Marcos from Atlético de Madrid too, Pichi Alonso from Zaragoza, and Perico Alonso, who is the father of the current Real Madrid manager, Xavi Alonso. He came together with Urbano, who was a player of the city rival Espanyol, that he delivered a standard performance at the Camp Nou during this downfall of LaTeX and scored a couple of goals. I mean, Maradona was sort of the icing on the cake of this great investment that Barcelona was trying to get in order to get the Liga title back to Barcelona. Latek was a highly respected manager. He has led Bayern Munich and Borussia Mönchengladbach in the 70s to, I think it was 6 German league titles. He also took Bayern Munich to their first European Cup title against Atlético de Madrid in the 1974, and took also Borussia to a UEFA title and one final against Liverpool in the European Cup. He was a very, very tough manager. He was known by the defensive approach. He was very physical. He wanted the physical fitness of the players is the most important thing. He was famously known by the training sessions with these heavy medicine balls that created some problems with Maradona and Schuster.
The other famous players in the team include the likes of Alessandro, Gerardo, like Migueli, Tarzan.
Kini was the striker. I think it was the out of the last 4 seasons the top scorer for the league. 2 for Barcelona and 1 for Sporting. In fact, it had been 2 years with Barca. The first one he was kidnapped, even though he was winning the top scorer of the championship.
And you have others like Olmo, Sanchez. Of course, you mentioned Bernd Schuster, the West German star. You also have Lobo Carrasco, among others.
The team was by far the most, let's say, the best team in Spain. In terms of names, even without Maradona, it was. Imagine adding Maradona to them. So the only problem we had is that they had 2 foreigners. By that time, it could only be a couple of foreigners in every La Liga team. And we had Simonsen and Schuster.
After a few months, Simonsen would be transferred to English second division side Charlton Athletic.
Oh, yeah. This was something that Núñez tried to convince the Spanish football authorities to widen to 3 foreigners each club. But of course, once they knew that Maradona was coming, I think probably influenced by Real Madrid, that was not having that very, let's say, important foreigners. They just did not convince, Núñez did not convince the Spanish authorities, and we had to transfer Simonsen. He was very, very important. He was very funny. He had a good performance for the team. He was a tiny. He was part of the Barcelona fans and was probably one of the first things that Maradona had to face. Substituting a guy that, of course, was not as good as Maradona, even though he had won a golden ball with the Borussia Mönchengladbach. But he was loved by Barcelona fans.
Maradona's debut for the 1982-83 season was against his compatriot Mario Kempes at Valencia, and Barcelona would lose this first match. There would be many more matches that would end as ties, and they would fall off the pace, and in the end, the title would be fought between Athletic Bilbao and Real Madrid. How was Barcelona's form in these early months of the season?
Maradona rapidly took responsibilities in the pitch and off the pitch also. He was bargaining with Núñez for the bonuses for the team and was delivering good performances. He was scoring goals and giving assists. And even he made his first great appearance in Spain was a game in the Bernabeu Stadium against Real Madrid when he gave 2 assists to win the game 0-2 to Esteban and Kini. Another thing that was important, that was something that was concerning Barca fans, and for sure Barca board too, was how was his relationship with Schuster. Because Schuster, the German, very young star, was another character. But at the end of the day, they become great friends. It took them, after the years, they were having summers together after the Maradona departure. So the integration of Maradona in the early months was great. But in December,
in December 1982, Maradona was diagnosed with viral hepatitis and would be out until March. Now, in the meantime, on March 3rd, Udo Lattek was sacked and Maradona's compatriot and the 1978 World Cup winning manager, the Argentine Cesar Luis Menotti, was appointed. In Maradona's absence, Barcelona had been losing ground. They lost the UEFA Super Cup to Aston Villa and would be eliminated by Austrian side FK Austria in the first week of Menotti's arrival in the Cup Winners' Cup. Maradona himself denied having a role in Menotti's appointment. At the time, was Menotti's arrival seen as a plus to get the best out of Maradona?
Yes, for sure. It was seen as another bet on Maradona by the club. Despite he had been contacted, I think it was in 1981 or 1980, when he was still the international Argentinian manager, to become the Barcelona manager before the arrival of Maradona. But anyhow, Menotti had a good relationship with Maradona, although he excluded Maradona from the winning World Cup squad in 1978. But the year after, he guided Maradona to victory at the Youth World Cup in Japan, which was probably the first international event that Maradona attended. And yeah, it may have had an influence, but not directly, probably.
It was said that Nunez himself may have been opposed to Menotti's arrival. Apparently, he wanted Hennes Weisweiler to return, and there were others on the board who wanted Mikkels to return, and others wanted like Leo Benhacker or Bobby Robson. But in any case, Menotti arrived with his assistant, Roge Poncini, to take charge of Barcelona.
By that time, the early 80s, Barcelona was jumping from one football culture to another. He was passing from Helene Herrera to Latec, then to Menotti, then passing to the British football of Terry Venables, and at the end to the Dutch style of Johan Cruyff. So you've mentioned different managers, potential managers that had no relationship in the terms of philosophy one with another. It was typical of the early 80s Barcelona style.
The final stretch of that first season, 1982-83, would be memorable for Barcelona and Maradona, as Real Madrid were defeated in the final of the Copa del Rey as well as the final of the League Cup. Were these triumphs seen as launching pads to win the league title?
Sure. In Spain, the cup title was decided during those years at the end of the season. In this case, it was semi-final and the final. We eliminated Arconada in a semi-final. I remember one Maradona goal at the Camp Nou, just dribbling past two or three defenders and lobbing the ball above Arconada to score a great goal. And then the final against Real Madrid with a great Maradona also assisting Victor in the first goal and being the target for the physical style of Real Madrid and eluding terrible tackles from Camacho, Medgod and Sabido. That seemed to be a turning point for the Barcelona club. And then in June, this League Cup trophy that was new also sealed confirmed this turning point. In that trophy was the memorable goal at the Bernabeu when Maradona bypassed Agustin, the keeper, before letting Juan Jose collide with the post in such a manner. You know? By then, at the end of that season, Barca was 100% clear favorites for the coming season.
For the 1983-84 season, the transfer activity was light. Was it due to the exorbitant expenditures in the previous season's transfer window, or was Menotti satisfied with the squad at hand?
Menotti was satisfied with the squad. We've just talked about the last 2 months with 2 trophies and making it probably the greatest footballing years for Barcelona. And also, of course, I mean, the investment of the previous years with not only in the 82, but the 81 also it was Victor, the international of Spain, Urruti, the goalkeeper. We've made a lot of investment. And Menotti decided that he was a coach that had their starting 11 and they didn't change at all this starting 11. So he just wanted to give some opportunities to the people from the youth squad, like Rojo, because this is something when he came to Barcelona during his first press conference, he asked about Rojo to the press in Barcelona because Rojo was the third best player of this Japan 1979 Youth World Cup. The first one was Maradona, of course. The second one was Julio César Romerito, the Paraguayan guy who, by the way, played some matches in 1988 with Barcelona. And then the third one was Rojo. And, I mean, the journalists in Barcelona, they thought Rojo was the winger of Athletic de Bilbao. They didn't know there was a guy in the second team called Rojo, who was, by the way, 22 years old or so. And Rojo was probably the first job squad player that Menotti took into the squad. Also, he gave opportunities to Manolo and Pedraza. But, I mean, he was I think he was okay with the team, with Maradona and Schuster. He had the summer to somehow pass his philosophy of football and life to the team because he had come, I think, mid-March. So it was just 3 months in the middle of the season. With this, as you commented, he lost to Australia when he drew, but was eliminated for the European competition 3 days after coming. But he won the two titles remaining of the season, and he was okay. And of course, for the Barcelona board, was okay not to pay some millions further decision, okay? But I think it was both causes.
Just to make a note that for the transfers, you have Estela leaving Barcelona, joining Mallorca. You have Argentine striker Jorge Gabrich from Newell's Old Boys, who I don't think ever made a first team appearance for Barcelona.
Probably won in the Spanish Cup.
Maybe, maybe.
But I think when Maradona was injured, he had some opportunities. Not a lot, but probably 1, 2 games. But it was not very important.
The 1983-84 season would be a season to forget, as everyone knows, with Andoni Goicochea's foul on Maradona on September 24, 1983, in the match against Bilbao that Barcelona won 4-0. What was the reaction in Barcelona as it became clear that he would have to sit out a big portion of the season? Did everyone just write off any title ambitions at this point?
First of all, it was a shock. But there was TV images of Maradona leaving the stadium with the ambulance and being going under surgery that same night. Okay, it was a shock for the club. But as you know, we are famous for our fatalism, the Barcelona supporters. It was even increased, but we just won one of the next 6 matches in La Liga. But that time we were just thinking that everything was impossible for us. But then we struggled and we won a couple of matches in the European football with Magdeburg. I think it was the Dutch Nick Nijmegen. But then it came a defeat against Real Madrid at home and also an injury from Schuster, who was also 1.5 months out. I think it was during November. But the league was very competitive, so all of teams were slowing down the points and losing games, and that gave Barcelona a certain possibility to wait for Maradona's return.
I think Goicoechea was initially suspended for like 17 matches or something like that, but obviously it was reduced on appeal, on a couple of appeals. And I think finally Maradona remarked that one more appeal and I would have been suspended for getting injured.
Yeah, that's the root cause of what happened at the end of that season. But of course, Maradona was off for 3, 4 months for sure. And I think there was 16, 17 matches at the beginning. At the end, it was 6 or 7. So, but it was just a yellow card for him during the match. That tackle was just a yellow card in Spanish football in the early 90s. Imagine.
During his recovery, Maradona would have problems with Nunez as he wanted to be treated by an Argentine doctor, Dr. Oliva, based in Florence, and not by Spanish based doctors. This led to a financial conflict with each side proposing terms based on the return date. Did this impact Maradona and Nunez's relationship that would eventually lead to his departure?
Probably, but let me tell you that Maradona and Nunez were opposite characters. Totally. Nunez was a conservative, familiar, a wealthy businessman, very religious. And Maradona was a successful young man living in Barcelona, being 22 years old. I mean, they could have never got along very well. That's it. But whenever there's a financial, let's say, controversy with Nunez, you will miss Nunez for that. I mean, Nunez, the money was the first, always. Always. And also, Nunez was highly concerned about the scandals of the lifestyle, not only of Maradona, but the Maradona friends that were living with him. This group of Maradona friends had several situations that was beyond Nunez's control, and that was also a cause of, let's say, of the departure of Maradona, probably.
Part of the conflict is that Spanish doctors had predicted that Maradona would return by February. Therefore, Nunez felt that Maradona's company should pay 50% of the receipts if he's not recovered by then. But Maradona, through his agent Jorge Pillar, he
Yeah.
said that if he could return earlier, then he would receive 50% of the receipts. And of course, Maradona returned on January 3rd.
Yeah. And he also recovered in Argentina. But then he made a great job. It was expected to be, I think it was mid-February, as you said, and it became just after Christmas and scoring a goal.
There would be some improvement as Maradona came back, but I think Barcelona had already lost too much ground. And once again, the league title was contested between Athletic Bilbao and Real Madrid. Barcelona were also eliminated by Manchester United in the Cup Winners' Cup quarterfinals. Do you feel that perhaps it was at this point that Nunez felt that he should cut his losses with Maradona?
Well, I'm not sure. I think he wanted Maradona to stay as he was not having any offer from another club. Okay. Of course, the defeat against United was hard, but let me tell you what the Maradona played with painkillers in his injured ankle. That could not cause any problem. In fact, he was very responsible with the club and with the teammates. We had a very unlucky defeat in Bernabeu, remembering being very superior, but lost in a late goal by Santillana. Anyhow, we reached to win, I think it was 8 out of the last 9 games of that league, but it was not enough.
Barcelona did advance and reach the final of Copa del Rey. But again, we all know what happened on May 5th, 1984 against Bilbao and the brawl that ensued. Was this in a way the last straw and an indication that he would not remain?
Yes, I mean, I think it was the punishment more than anything because he was sanctioned to, I think it was 3 or 4 months without playing. But I mean, the match against Bilbao, I mean, in the relationship against Barca, Menotti, and Maradona with Athletic Bilbao got really terrible after the injury of Maradona. Clemente, the athletic manager, never helped at all with his, let's say, press conference comments against Barca and against Maradona. Of course, no one could have expected to end like that, the final, okay? But it was something, I don't think it was something related to Maradona leaving the problem with Athletic. I don't think so. I mean, the relationship with Athletic players and Athletic manager.
Do you know if the new incoming Barcelona manager, the Englishman Terry Venables, was he keen to retain Maradona, or the player and the Barcelona hierarchy wanted to end the adventure by this point?
I think, in fact, Venables was hired after the board decided to sell Maradona. They want to retain Menotti, even though they were going to sell Maradona for the next year. But the Argentinian manager left due to some personal reasons, never quite disclosed, okay? But anyhow, I suppose that Venables was very keen to have the best player in the world training and playing for him.
Did he do anything to perhaps persuade them to keep Maradona that you know of?
Well, I don't know, but I think the decision after the sanction, I mean, was the Spanish Football Committee decided it, I think it was 4 months ban or something like that. And it was clear that they get this. And Maradona also wanted to some other things from the club. And there was this offer from Napoli, from Corrado Ferlaino, the Napoli president, that equal almost what Barcelona paid for Maradona to Argentinos Juniors. And it was just before Venables was appointed first team manager of Barca. But probably they could have talked, but I don't know.
On balance, in his 2 seasons, how was Maradona's relationship with the Barcelona fans? Was he popular or did he lose the crowd at some point?
Well, probably he lost the crowd during the last part of the last season with these rumors of Maradona getting out every night in Barcelona and not winning games. I think at the beginning, as we commented, I mean there was a strong enthusiasm for the arrival of Maradona, but there are different lifestyles. You know, Catalans are quite different from Maradona. Catalan people are very concerned about reputation. They prefer privacy, intimate gatherings, and Maradona is the other way around, always being public and enjoying himself.
Is there a belief that without the hepatitis absence in his first season and the injury in the second season, Barcelona could have won the league title? Or most observers believe he was never really destined to win with Barcelona of those years? Did he, in short, join Barcelona at a time where they just could not win a title?
Probably, but let me tell you that many Barcelona fans, myself included, I believe that if Maradona had stayed healthy for the 2 seasons, we had secured the league title for sure, for sure. And probably with a new era of dominance, not only in Spain, but in Europe too. But it's something we will not know.
What are the reasons given as to why he did not succeed at Barcelona, whereas he became a legend at Napoli in the Serie A? Was he perhaps too young at Barcelona but more experienced with Napoli?
Well, in my opinion, Napoli was a much better place for Maradona, a better match for Maradona. The city is known for being so chaotic, very energetic, and the people there is they feel overlooked and mistreated by the northern Italians. And Maradona fit perfectly with this spirit of Napoli people. In contrast, Barcelona is a city, it's a very insecure club and never truly accepted Maradona as one of their own. You know what I mean? And from day one in Napoli, it was the other way around. He was warmly welcomed, of course, but he was treated as his beloved son.
Also, the team was being built around him in Napoli more than it would have been at Barcelona, perhaps, who already had a base of a good team.
I mean, of course, the base of the team in Napoli was much worse, but he was given the opportunity to have an influence in the new signings. With the Giordano, for instance, the keeper that they changed the keeper, and Maradona was part of let's say of the managing part of Napoli too. So in Barcelona, that was not possible at all.
Are his Barcelona years more or less forgotten and only remembered by historians and older Barcelona fans?
Yeah, probably, probably. I mean, the lack of footage for the matches and the images and the few titles that we won, and the fact that the very first year after Maradona departure, Barcelona won the league title after 11 years. I think everyone in Barcelona may have underestimated Maradona years. But I mean, the figures are great. He played 58 games, scored 38 goals. He gave 23 assists or so. It was more than relevant, the figures. More than one goal impact in every match he played. So in terms of figures for the 80s, the figures were incredible.
In closing, what is the historical and cultural legacy of Maradona in his 2 years at Barcelona?
Very few. I mean, just leaves us great moments of those goals against Real Madrid or some dribbles and passes and that lob against Red Star in Belgrade. But those moments that he could show what afterwards he could give to Napoli and Argentina fans that enjoyed the best Maradona. Probably the best ever footballer.
Culturally, he's regarded as a Boca player and a Napoli player. And
Yes, totally.
Barcelona is kind of lost in that discussion.
For
Yeah.
sure, for sure, for sure. But I mean, there was not legacy, no legacy of Maradona. It's one of the greatest what ifs in football history. If Maradona would have stayed in Barcelona, probably Maradona also sometime he regretted once he saw that Barcelona was becoming again a very important team and well. Who knows? But it's true that Maradona is not even a small part of Barcelona history. It's just another great player that played for us and did not reach the level that was expected.
With that, I would like to thank you for your participation in this interview and sharing your memories of these 2 years where the greatest player in the world played at Barcelona, but unfortunately did not have the impact expected. All our contact information is listed on the blog and podcast uploads. So, Jordi, thank you once again and hope to continue these discussions on football history.
You, it was a pleasure to have a chat with you about Maradona in Barcelona.
Thank you.